Every once in a while, I'm lucky enough, or cursed enough, whichever the case might be, to come across a gun that is either rare or special in some way, or something that really just screams out, add me to your collection. This is something that is a must-have. Today, a recent find is the subject of consideration, and it is the Performance Center. And this is the early days of the Smith & Wesson Performance Center, back when this was the box that they provided you, and there was the beautiful medallion on that box. I'll show you close-ups of that. But this was how your gun was delivered to you from the Performance Center. So a couple of times on my channel I have showed you the Smith & Wesson 645, of which I am the original owner. I got an early copy of that and I've had it ever since. And that was Smith & Wesson's first 45 ACP semi-automatic pistol. But before Smith & Wesson made their own 1911, they still had another transition, sort of the missing link, if you will, between that double action, single action 645 era and the 1911 Smith & Wesson, and that was the Smith & Wesson 945, and that is what I have here. So the 945 from the Performance Center came like this in this beautiful case. It did not come with this many magazines. I'm lucky to have 6 original factory magazines with this gun. But the 945 was the hybrid between that 645 and the 1911. So you've got now the trigger, single action only, and the style of trigger, with a trigger bow, the straight back pull of the 1911. You've got the bobbed hammer of the 1911. You've got the grip frame angle and thickness. Basically, this is, for all intents and purposes, a sort of a 1911-ish kind of gun, but still not quite. It really is like a missing link between the Smith & Wesson traditional double action, single action duty guns, and they're finally, when they finally entered the 1911. But what makes it an additional treat to find this particular 945 and to be able to acquire it, in addition to just the fact that it is pretty rare to find them in good shape, is the fact that I knew the gentleman who owned this, who has since passed away, and I've shot with him many times in the past, and he was certainly a lover of fine firearms. He was a long-time, well-respected member of this club where I'm standing now and the other club that I belong to that's nearby. Very well known in the community, very well thought of in the community. I'll leave the family to their privacy, and I won't talk about names of individuals, but every time I shoot this gun, starting with today, this will be the very first time, I will do so in his honor. Now let's get started. My philosophy is, with very rare exception, guns are for shooting. So even a relatively rare gun like this one that is old and has, collection value and all that kind of stuff, this is still a gun that needs to be shot. And I happen to know that the previous owner felt the exact same way. He shot this gun a lot. It's been shot a lot, but it's been well maintained. The only thing I did before bringing it out is I put a new recoil spring in it, because he must have liked to shoot really light reloads, because he had a recoil spring that was I think something he took out of a big pen. It was pretty light. So I've put a factory recoil spring back in the gun, and it feels much better to me. All right, so why don't I shut up and shoot, starting out with Sig Sauer Elite Performance 240 grain full metal jacket. Black on black are the sights. Just trying to see if I hold it still like I'm supposed to, where it hits. Yeah, it looks like the sights are right on. If I do my part, uh-oh. Good. Failure to extract. Spent case did not extract. Try it again. We should only have a couple left in this mag. All right. The extractor looks good. I've inspected the gun really well mechanically, and everything looks good, so don't know. Let's go some more. Now that I know where I'm supposed to hold it, let's see if I can hit that flapper. And by the way, that is about a heavy 15 yards downrange. Okay, 8 for 8 through the mag, 8 for 8 on the flapper at 15 yards. Incidentally, this is my first time shooting a 945, and feels like a nice gun. It's, you know, again, it's that hybrid. It's got the 1911 grip safety, it's got that 1911 bobbed hammer, it's got a ambidextrous safety with very, very nice and generous surface areas. I'll show you all these elements in close-up. And it's a little more rare than just a 945. It is a special 945 that was sent to just one distributor. They only made so many of them. It's got the LEW prefix on the serial number. But it is one heck of a shooter. It's just not one heck of an injector, apparently. Man, it's nice. It is nice. Of course, it's big and it's got some weight, so it handles that recoil really, really nicely. So this is the kind of a pistol for me that you bring out once or twice a year. You put a few magazines through it, take it home, clean it really nice, clean it thoroughly, and lubricate it, and stare lovingly at it for a few minutes, and then you put it back in the safe. You know, and then you rinse and repeat. Do that every year, every 6 months, depending on your shooting schedule. You certainly don't want to, you know, I don't want to take a gun like this that has some value as a collectible and is obviously going to be harder to replace in terms of parts and things like that, and beat it to death. But good guns deserve to be shot. And these things were built like tanks anyway. Everything but the ejector or the extractor. I don't know, maybe I'll need to re-examine that extractor because it does seem to occasionally be having a little bit of a problem. It has, as I said, a black on black sight picture. Rear sight is adjustable. Front sight is in a dovetail, which is nice. A big improvement from the old Smith 645s and that series, where the front sight blade was actually part of the slide. You were just screwed if you didn't like it. This one, at least, you can drift it out and drift a new one in if you want. The attention to detail on the 945 is, in my opinion, so far superior to that of that 645 that I have. The 645 was kind of that era of American manufacturing where the philosophy was consumer will take what we give them and they'll like it. Period. I think by the time the 945 was made, you know, you're into that mid 90s to late 90s period where the American manufacturer was starting to realize that the American consumer wasn't going to have that anymore. They were going to demand good quality for their money, and they were going to go elsewhere if they couldn't buy it domestically. And so this, I think, reflects the era where the American gun company, as well as all the American manufacturers, started to step up their game and really start paying attention to not just quality in terms of does it work, but quality in terms of fit and finish and, you know, design and those kinds of things. So I think this marks a really nice period in American gun making. It's got these incredible, exquisite fish scale serrations on the slide that I just adore. They feel great and they look fantastic. Let me try that flapper again. Try my luck. I'm bound to miss. There we go. All right, so let's take a look at some of the components and elements of this gun, talk about it in sort of a tabletop setting. So you can see that control-wise, it is very 1911-ish. It has a 1911 trigger, of course. I talked about that. Has a 1911 slide stop and lock. Has a 1911 safety, 1911-ish hammer. Really everything. You know, on the back we have a grip safety with a beaver tail that is extremely 1911-ish. And yet, it still has a lot of the characteristics and even a lot of the shooting quality of that Smith & Wesson double single. It really, in fact, the slide is really built right on that platform or right from that platform. You can see this blanked out area on both sides of the slide is where the safety that used to be a slide mounted safety was located, that hammer drop safety, and then they moved the safety down here to its proper location and they just blanked that out. There are a couple of things that are very noteworthy on this. One of them is the serial number. It is a Lou Horton. Starts with LEW, the serial number, and they only did that the first year for a limited run, and those were sold exclusively through the Lou Horton distributor. So that makes this gun even rarer yet One of the other distinguishing things about the first year model is it's 1.5 ounces heavier than every other year that they made after that. This one weighs 43.5 ounces. They went down to 42 ounces the next year and every year thereafter for the 5-inch barrel. A couple of noteworthy design cues here are, number one, incredibly undercut trigger guard. If you look at the undercut on that trigger guard, that is really, really pronounced and amazing. And a very nice magazine release. So here again, they were starting to realize that, you know, people like that larger magazine release, and it is a nice one. The slide stop slide release and barrel lug pin control here is pretty much the same as it was on the Smith double single actions. It might even be interchangeable with like the 645. And of course we have our 1911 trigger, and it is a very nice trigger. We have the, I believe they're probably a nylon type of grip, and they look black, but they're actually like a dark brown with a little bit of grain coloration running through them. Nicely checkered. The front strap is nicely checkered, as is the back strap. There are a lot of very nice aspects to this gun. They even beveled out the mag well, much more than they were doing on their previous models. Came with fully adjustable Bomar sight on the rear and a nice dovetail mounted front sight. Black on black is the configuration there. And let me back out a little bit and let's just do a quick comparison to a 1911. So you can see that they are virtually the same exact size in terms of height and length. 1911 versus 945, and Smith is now, they are all but in the pool. They got their toe in the water, and they are ready to take a dip into the 1911 world. They're just almost there. One of the things that is a key difference, though, if you look at this 945 and then we overlay the 1911, the grip angle is different. You see that? Grip angle is not as steep. It's a shallower, straighter grip on the 945 versus a 1911. So they still kind of stuck with that original grip angle that they had on their previous models. It is a very comfortable gun to shoot, very enjoyable. It's just, it feels so nice in the hand. It feels so nice, not unlike a 1911, so it has a lot of that feel and quality. It's a heavy gun at 43.5 ounces. Great checkering everywhere, so you have an excellent grip on the gun. It absorbs the recoil like a champ, partially because of all that weight, and just a really nice ergonomics. And this is one sweet pistol. Pressed in bushing on the front. It's not a bushingless, but it's actually a pressed fit bushing on that barrel in the front. And it basically strips like a 1911 in every other way. Magazines are very 1911-ish, but of course not compatible. The only thing compatible with these magazines, I think, are these magazines, and that's it. So there it is, Smith & Wesson Model 945. Great acquisition, happy to have it. It's a perfect fit to the collection, and you might just see this one again. From a practical perspective right now, I got to tell you, this thing is a whole lot of fun to shoot. Fantastic balance. It has a great feel in the hand. It feels 1911-ish, but not 1911-ish all at the same time. Great sight picture. I would like some color out front, but back in those days, black on black was sort of the top of the line industry standard. Either that or that orange insert, which that probably would be better. Wow. What a fantastic gun. What a fantastic gun. It was a great find. And I got it for what I consider to be a very good deal. And I am very happy and proud to have this pistol.